Good day everyone, it is Caitlin and today we are making baby corsets for the 19th century. Hello and welcome. So we are going to work on baby corsets today. I have an antique one here. This is probably later than what we're doing. This is probably later 19th century. But you can see how just absolutely adorable it is. So this one is tiny, like it would measure for a newborn. It's about 14 inches, so it is itty bitty, and someone even made it smaller because you could see I had little tacks right in here just twice to kind of make sure it fit because I think it was a little too big. But yeah, this is just a cotton. They machine stitch channels all the way down the corset, like not even the design, they just did the whole thing. The nice little adding the cording. And on the back side, it's just plain, so you don't see the cording channel. So there's at least 3 layers in this corset. There's the 2 layers that the cording are sandwiched between, and then there's this back layer. So, and then it's just bound all around, and the little straps are added. Little grommets as well. And the buttons are to button on petticoats and drawers and all that. So we are going to add those to ours. So I need an earlier style. The earlier styles don't seem to have this much cording in them. And so I don't think we're going to add as much cording. This is a lot of cording. I really only need it to 1860 to 1880. And this one may be 1880, maybe 1890s. And I think we are going to do 2 sizes. We're just going to do 1 corset in each size. I know we've been making like 2 petticoats for each size. And I was going to do that. And then I realized that I have only 1 corset for each time period. So why would my child need 2? Now comes the fun part, measuring. So the Workwoman's Guide does not have stays pattern for babies. It has it for children. So basically this is me taking what we did last week with the bodice petticoat, making that bodice about 1.5 inches longer, and using that as my stays pattern. I gotta find it into my fabric here. This is a ripped end. I'd rather not use that one if I don't have to. 17 inches. So I need to cut it 18 inches. Okay. I'm going to cut it a 7-inch rectangle right now. I have a 7 by 18 inch square. So wherever I stop this one, I'm going to go ahead and make another one because I will need 2. A front and a back. Probably could have used the iron this, but we're just going to go with it right now. Flatten it out, fold it in half, and then actually fold it in half again. So in this corner, I'm going to cut the arm's eye. Okay. Alright, now the front, the originals I'm looking at are 1 inch shorter in the front, so I am going to cut off 1 inch. And that's not going to be very long enough, so... Okay, there we go. Alright, so that's the cut of the corset. I need another one, but I need this one bigger, so that one was going to be 17 inches. Next one's going to be 19, so I need to cut it 20 inches this time and do basically the same thing. I'm going to make it the same height and all that. Alright, so we now have 2 corsets, 1 larger size and a smaller size. First step is ironing. First sewing step after ironing, we're going to start making the boning channels. I ended up cutting the corset down just 1 inch because it occurred to me that I was adding the seam allowance width everywhere. I don't need to add that everywhere, I just need to add it at the ends because I need to turn those ends under, which I should probably actually do before I do this. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm sewing with a 1/2 inch seam allowance because I added 1 inch extra. Alright, there we go. So now I have those ends finished. So for the smaller one, I've decided I'm just going to do straight rows, and I'll do more decorative stuff on the bigger one. That way I can see at an instant which size is which. And because my original small one is straight, I figure that would just make more sense in my brain. So I'm going to start just down the center. I ironed a line so I know exactly what the center is. I think I'm going to do doing 1/4" channels. Center. It seems pretty wide. Let's see. Yeah, I like 4 down there. Okay, we're going to leave that there. And take this, fold that in half. Use the iron to mark it. I think I'm going to do just 2 here. Of course, I got to do the same thing on this side. Now I decide where I want to go put them next. How about we just put 1 right here? So I'm just going to stitch down the edge here. Okay, I'll match that one in just a second. But I think we're going to do maybe a set of 2 right underneath the arm. I'm going to do another 1 on this side and then probably do a set of 2 on this side. Alright, I'm going to match that on the other half of the corset. So we'll have the same looking little design. And I'll meet you back here for doing the bigger one. Alright, let's work on this one. So I did like a curved seam. Can you see it going that way? So I did I'm doing in sets of 3. So I did 3 down the center, 3 curving this way, 3 down the center here, 3 curving this way. I guess I only did 2 here like I did the last time. So I kind of marked this one where I did this one, and we're going to go ahead and sew it. Let's go put the cording in all the panels. Alright, so we are putting in the cording. So I am just using sugar and cream yarn. Well, actually, I think this is Dishy by Knit Picks. Yeah, it is, in white. I use this stuff around the house. It's 100% cotton yarn, and it's fantastic, so I use it for stuff like this too. But not for piping dresses. This is too thick for piping dresses. But with the channels already done, it's super easy. It's got a very thick needle. I put a really long length of the Dishy in there, so I don't have to keep cutting new stuff. Oops, that would be the wrong one. Stick it all the way through. Kind of pull that out just to make sure it's not all scrunched up. Cut it down. And you just keep going. I mean, it's pretty mindless work. It's really great to do something while you're, something to do while you're watching a movie. Because it's, again, mindless and it's fast. It looks so good when it's done. I love the little raised bits, and it's really fun to do designs. And I mean, when you do earlier stuff like the 1830s and such, like you see serpentine channels on the women's corsets and all that. And yeah, look at that. Isn't that adorable? But really, as far as the designs of your cording goes, I mean, just look at originals, because there are tons and tons of options out there. I'm not entirely convinced that there's anything that's really off limits. I'm sure you can come up with something like, I don't know, doing a skull and crossbones on your horse. I'm pretty sure no one did that in the 1830s. But as far as, just designs, you could pretty much do anything. The later you go on the century, the more cording to be, and the more likelihood of it being just straight channels just over and over and over and over again, like the original that I showed you. That's going to be more common later in the century. So if you're doing, much later stuff, you may opt for doing that earlier. You can get away with less cording and more designs. Now this corset's ready for binding, but we're going to go ahead and cord the other one first. And honestly, you don't even have to cord your baby's corsets. You could quilt them. That's an option. I consider doing one of those too for winter wear, but we do so few winter events that it would just be, and most of them are indoors, so it's throw a jacket on and you're fine. You can always cord it. Found a really cute, I think it's 1860s, maybe late 1850s, flannel corset, and it was like a basket weave. Oh, it was so cute. If I had enough wool flannel in 2 different colors, I would have done that. But usually you have a backing, you cut the backing to the size, and then you take selvages of your wool and you put, the colors, and you alternate them, and you just do a basket. It's a basket weave. I've also seen ones without anything, so like literally just fabric. Usually it's a stiffer fabric, like a drill or something, or a jean. So you have lots of different options for baby corsets. But I'm even this is still very flexible. It's not going to harm the child. It's definitely not going to make them very stiff to where they can't move or do anything the kids do. It's just a little bit, cording is really almost just for pretty. I mean, it creates a little bit of structure so you don't have wrinkling and that sort of thing, and it seems to me like it would fit better and be more comfortable corded because it does have a little bit of resistance there, but it's not so much resistance and so stiff that it's going to keep a child from acting and behaving like a child. So last year, I made a whole 1830s outfit for a friend's daughter because we were doing a film with another friend for his museum. It was a local ghost story, and I put her in everything: drawers, corset, chemise, 2 petticoats, dress, and she was running around chasing her little brother, tackling him. Like, she was behaving like a totally normal 10-year-old, and she wasn't complaining that she was in pain or that she couldn't move or she felt stiff and uncomfortable. It was just clothing to her. Alright, now we get to bind them. So that's what that one looks like. It's straight cords. So let's start with the bottom. Cut off all the ends, which I could have done earlier, but I want to make sure I did my final pull on everything before I did that. Even up everything, because even the edges of the corset have gotten a little bit, pulled apart. I think it's a little bit more than 1/2 inch, but it's twill tape. I think it's 5/8. No, it is 1/2 inch. Okay. Well, we're going to use this. Fold in the raw edge. And I find a whip stitch is a great way to attach binding like this. And we're going to go all the way down, just not putting that to the edge, but putting it halfway down, as straight as I can. And the reason for using a twill tape instead of cutting binding from fabric is that creates, of course you have to have a seam allowance for fabric, and so that creates a lot more bulk. It's double the bulk than if you just use a tape like this. So you see in a lot of originals, they don't use fabric for binding, they use a tape. Of course on this side, it just looks like a regular binding. Alright, we are binding the top, so this is the other corset. But I did the bottom just like we already did, and I'm doing the armholes, which are probably the most difficult part just because it's a curved line, but it goes over them really well, so it hasn't been a problem. It's just a little more fiddly. And then as I'm putting the top one on, I'm doing the shoulder straps as well. It's just because I already had the needle there, it was easier to do them as I was binding. We also have the corners on this one, or on the top, that we didn't have on the bottom. They've been working out pretty well too. They are not difficult. They just require, moving things around with your thumb a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put on this other tie. So I cut them the same length as we did last week, which is around 7.5 inches for the smaller size, and about 8.5 inches on the larger size. And they look a little bit long, but I'd rather it be a little lower than higher on the child, if that makes sense. So I'm happy with them. If I need to, I can always take a tuck in the binding. Little ties, I just went right around it and just kept going, all on one thread, which makes it a little bit easier and a little bit faster to do it all at the same time. All right, and then while we're over here, we're going to do some ties. 9.5, 9.75 inches. I was trying to cut them 10 inches and I didn't measure, so that's actually pretty close. Now, the original did grommets, and you could do grommets. All of the ones that I'm seeing, at least in illustrations, and the extant ones that I know are dated 1870 and earlier, or really, sorry, 1865 and earlier. All of them have been tied in the back. So I'm going to do ties. Okay, Castile's Guide to 1880s still has ties on their corset. But I know I've also seen patents and stuff for children's corsets, illustrations, starting in 1869 that are either with grommets for babies or buttons. They would button. So this is a smaller set of stays, and we're going to sew 3 buttons, one in the center and one on each side. Now I am holding the button away from the fabric slightly because I don't want it to go down to the very center there or to touch the fabric. I want there to be a good bit of wiggle room. You can see how far away that is, because those waistbands are going to be quite bulky with the buttonholes in them. And I don't want to overbulk that up to where they won't fit on the button. And then towards the end, I'm going to take it and I'm going to wrap my thread around very tightly. And it kind of creates a shank. If you've seen a shank button, which I may have one, this is a shank button. So it has a little loop on the back. It doesn't make it to where it's flush with the fabric, so you have more space there. And so I'm kind of doing the same thing. I'm just creating a shank button with thread. So it's a thread shank button, kind of. And that should help accommodate at least 2 layers. So a drawers and a petticoat, or 2 petticoats or something like that, without it just not being able to hold on. I'm going to do the same thing here, and it's basically what I'm doing, a buttonhole stitch. Just a couple times to kind of help, knot it a bit. So you can kind of see the little thread shank in there. I know it's very hard to see, but you can see it's not laying flush against the fabric. And this is our very last step with these corsets. Just putting on these lovely little buttons. There are little corsets. Aren't they absolutely adorable? So there's the original. You can see how much smaller it is, because this would fit a newborn. It would actually not even close all the way for a newborn. It's a tiny little baby. But then here's the smaller one, all of its little cords and all that beautiful work. The buttons. I didn't even mean for this to happen, but China button, China button, bone button. So that was kind of interesting. And this one, of course, has all China buttons, just because that's what I had. A baby or a toddler wearing these is going to be able to function just as if they were not wearing one. It's not going to be harmful to the child. But I don't think I mentioned it before, but the reason we put those are the tiny little corsets, and we only have 2 more weeks of underpinnings. We do got to make petticoats for these, but we also got to make a set of drawers. So we're getting so close to being done with 19th century underpinnings. It seems like we've been working on this for a while. I mean, it's been months. So that shows you how there's a lot of underpinnings that go into this, but of course I am doing a much larger time frame, about an 80-year time frame, 70-year time frame. And things do change within that time frame, so it's one of the reasons we had to do so many videos. But those are our tiny little corsets. Can't wait to see them on somebody. I think they're just going to be absolutely adorable. But if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Click that little bell notification so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. And as always, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back here in the next video.